listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. Radio's authority on the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology, celebrating 25 years of broadcasting. Broadcasting around the world and to the great beyond.
And welcome to the X-Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Worldwide toll-free 800-610-7035. Email xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV, and our main website at www.xzoneradiotv.com, where you can listen to the X-Zone 7/24/365. This is our first show of the year 2016. I trust everyone had a great holiday. Santa Claus was good to each and every one of you. And that you are all safe and sound as we look ahead to the year 2016. 2015 was just one of those years that you were just so glad to see go out the window on, January 31st. December 31st, I should say. And here we are looking forward to a new year. What lies ahead? What do we have to look forward to? Are there going to be disasters? Are there going to be strikes? Are there going to be the increase in food crisis? Are we going to see global peace? No, scratch that one. But what are we going to see, and how are we going to react? My first guest tonight, the first guest of the year, is my good friend Gwilda Wiyaka. She is joining us from somewhere high in the Colorado mountains. And her website is gwildawiyaka.com. And Gwilda, welcome back to the X-Zone. Happy New Year!
Well, Happy New Year to you, Rob.
So tell me, what were some of your New Year's resolutions?
Oh, I don't do those anymore because you end up breaking them, you know?
Yeah, that's the fun. That's the fun. You say, all right, I made this resolution, and look what happened. It didn't come true. And you know, it's funny that people never look at a New Year's resolution that is broken as a lie. I wonder why.
I don't know. I decided I'd quit lying to myself and just do the best I can in every moment.
That's what I love about you. You always have a positive way of looking at things. Gwilda, it's no secret that the world that we are in is all screwed up. Like, we're looking at Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, Bill Clinton. I never thought I'd say that in the same sentence, but here I am, 2016, and we're looking at Bill Clinton again on the campaign trail, helping his wife out, like a good man should. Yeah, it's funny because you and I talk off air, and we're both snickering about that at the same time. But listen, as a shamanic person who's very in tune with the ways of the shaman, how do you see the year 2016?
Well, it's going to be an interesting one, Rob. I can see a lot of trends moving that are going to change things drastically. I mean, we've been going through a lot of change, but this is kind of like, this year is really, I think, going to be a turning point where a lot of ugly underbellies are exposed of different systems, and people are going to either really have to bury their head in the sand not to see it, or are going to start opening their eyes. And it's going to cause a lot of unrest. There's a lot of things that have been going on for years and years and years and years and years that nobody's really acknowledged or recognized or seen. And boy, they're going to come to the surface. And the reason for this is because we're definitely entering into a higher frequency time. We have an amazing information highway. People are informed. They're starting to put two and two together, and there's just more light to see by.
All right, give us some examples. For example, when you look at world peace, we're still looking at a problem with ISIS in the Middle East. We're looking at Egypt cutting all ties with Iran. We have the Egyptian government who the other day, or yesterday, I believe, executed more than 40 people, and one of these was a cleric, a Muslim cleric that, people are going nuts in the Middle East about. We still have problems with Russia. Russia is now looking at NATO as a threat. We have the refugee problem. We have global warming. It's just, how does a person cope with all the problems that are going on in today's society on a day-to-day basis?
Well, I think by getting a little bit of perspective, and I've given this analogy before, but it's such a good one. Mm-hmm. Way back in the 1800s, there was a musician that did an experiment, and he used a bowstring, like you do on a violin, and a plate of sand. And we've repeated that experiment now using a sound plate and, blasting sound at it.
Yeah.
But basically what happened is there's a plate of sand sitting there still, and you sound a tone at it, and it'll, like you'd expect, it starts jumping around,
right.
Vibration, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it goes into chaos for a little while. But then what's amazing is it forms like this kaleidoscope repeating pattern. And that repeating pattern will remain on that plate as long as that note is held. If you change the note up or down, mm-hmm. the sand once again goes into total chaos, and then a new, totally unique kaleidoscope pattern is formed. And what's more interesting is that you can go back to the old note, and if you've taken a photograph of the kaleidoscope pattern at that note, it reappears. So everything expresses according to frequency. And what we're doing now is we're moving from one bandwidth of frequency into another. It's been prophesized in many ways, in many countries, in many languages. But the bottom line is these are the times of change. We're changing from one frequency format to another. And so we're going into chaos, and everything is going into chaos around us. So if we understand that this is something that systematically and cyclically happens throughout the millennia, and that this is something that we can ride through and do the best we can with, we can manifest through this in a good way. But if we don't and we get caught up in the chaos, then, you become part of the problem rather than part of the solution. So I think staying informed is absolutely paramount, and staying centered and grounded in the way life works is absolutely paramount.
All right, there's a lot of people out there, Gwilda, who have no idea on how to stay grounded, or even how to get grounded in the first place. How would you suggest they go about doing that?
One of the best ways is to start orienting yourself to the world rather than to the TV set or the way your house is set up or to the office, but to go outside, get a compass, and make sure that you know where you are in the center of your own circle. Where's north? Where's south? Where's east? Where's west? Where does the sun come up? Where does it go down? These simple things start to realign us with the way life works versus the artificial environment that we have trapped ourselves in.
As a shaman, how do you see the year 2016? Is it a year of learning? Is it a year of disappointment? Is it a year that will bring us closer to enlightenment? Is it a spiritual year? Or is this a year where we all need to watch our butts?
All the above,
Rob.
Oh,
my goodness.
All the above.
Hold on. I'm going to shut the radio system off. I'm going to a turtle shell and calling it a night.
Sorry, you ask.
I know.
It's a very volatile year. And the potential for catastrophe is very, very high because it is such a volatile frequency out there and because everybody's reacting to it in their own way. On the other hand, the opportunity for amazing spiritual advancement is equally high. And where we as individuals stand in that equation is going to make all the difference.
All right. How important is spirituality in the year 2016? And how do we tie into our very own spiritual realm?
I would have to say it's probably more important in 2016 than it has been heretofore, although it's always been important. But right now we're entering into such a high-speed time. It's like when you get behind the wheel of a car and you're putzing along at 30, you've got plenty of time to make corrections. We aren't going 30, we're going 90. And there's no time to fuss around. You have to be right on, you have to be focused, and you have to make those corrections quickly in order to stay on the road. And that's where we are right now. Spirituality is a very personal undertaking, and I don't view spirituality as religion, although I don't necessarily separate them, but rather attunement to the way life works. There's a verse in the Bible that says, and he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water that bring forth his fruit in his season. And whatever he does will prosper. Well, that speaks of if you're in alignment with the way God's way or the way life works, no matter what's going on around you, you're going to be okay. And if you're not, well, we know who's going to win in that equation. When you work against the laws of nature, they're bigger than we are. And these societies have been working against the laws of nature for a long time, more or less getting away with it because it was going 30 miles an hour, not 90.
When we look at spirituality, there's a lot of people who have lost faith in spirituality, and it seems that more and more people are searching because of the missing element in their life, and I'm talking about spirituality. How does one regain their spirituality or find spirituality again?
It's really an inward search to find yourself again, because what's happened with spirituality is it's been exploited and used to control. And so people have become disillusioned with it, or they have been programmed to see it in a particular way. Right. Spirituality is a living thing. You can't dictate it. You can't predict it. You have to become one with it. Just like, every year there's spring, summer, winter, fall, but there's never two of them the same. And so if we plant on exactly the same day every year, it's going to go differently every year. The more we can tune into ourselves, just as simple as the animals have these amazing instincts we've walked away from. Spirituality is instinctual. It's not something somebody else can dictate to you.
Exonation, my guest this hour is Gwilda Wiyaka. Her website is www.gwildawiyaka.com. Gwilda, what put you on the course of the crusade and the quest that you have been on all these years?
Well, I kind of came into the world wired a little different than most. I was real sensitive.
I'm glad you said that because I wanted to say it, but I didn't think it'd be very appropriate for me to say that you came in wired differently.
That's okay. You can say that, Rob.
Okay, sis.
But I was more sensitive than most. I think probably if they had the ability at the time, they would have probably put me in close to the autistic category, because I'm very sensitive to everything going on around me. And then I had to really use that sensitivity because I was also in a very, very volatile, abusive situation throughout my childhood. And so I learned to listen to what was going on in the emotional realms of the people around me in order to find safe passage. Well, I turned the volume up on that scale and never learned how to turn it down. And by the time I was in my 20s, my adrenals were fried. I was just toasted. And fortunately, that's where I met my first teacher, who was a Lakota elder. And I've been studying and working with shamanism ever since.
The new children who are coming to this world right now, the indigo children, the rainbow children, whatever name you want to give them, is this something new, or is it we who are now recognizing the differences and the uniqueness of these children who are coming to this world now? And is it possible, Gwilda, that these rainbow children, these indigo children, whatever, have been coming here for a long time, and you, my friend, I believe, are an example of that?
Oh, Rob, that's sweet to say. I do believe. Oh, well, there's all sorts of examples of people that came in with more of the lights on than what we normally have, and it doesn't go well for them oftentimes.
Yeah.
But what's going on right now, Rob, is that like I keep saying, the sun is entering in a higher frequency place in the universe, and that's heating up its heliosphere. The heliosphere affects the sun's electromagnetic field, which affects the entire solar system's electromagnetic field. It is producing more light. Now, I believe that and a lot of my teachers told me this, these incarnating spirits have a lot more going on, but they have to step down their frequency to the ambient one of the planet to incarnate into physical form. Mm-hmm. Well, as we're getting into higher frequency, that bar is being raised so that the amount of light that can come through with these spirits is higher than what it would have been 50 years ago. And so I'm seeing a lot of them coming in because they can, with more of themselves on deck. But what's really amazing, Rob, is if we do this work, we can step into that which we had to leave behind when we came. So we aren't restricted to the frequency bandwidth that we have now.
All right, so when we're looking at all these variances that are going on, how do we adapt to the differences in the electromagnetic field and what is happening in the outer confines of outer space that are affecting this planet? How do we as Earthlings protect ourselves as well as adapt?
Well, you see, the sun is changing, and through this electromagnetic field of the sun and the earth is changing also. Mm-hmm. And we're the only ones that are sitting still, and it's starting to create a lot of pressure. That's what we're seeing. Right. And so the key is to really be mindful of our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual beings, that we free up the places that were bogged down and restricted, so that we can change also. And that has to do with opening your mind to different aspects of spirituality, mm-hmm. opening your mind to different thoughts and ways of being. That's the mental part. Opening your emotions and letting them move and clearing them out and quit drugging them away. Taking care of your physical body. Stay away from the GMOs. Eat natural food. Eat food in its season. Drink pure water. Get outside. Walk. Get your feet on the earth. Expose yourself to the natural smells and the natural cycles and the natural temperatures out there. That's the best way to go, because it's there. Everything else is changing around us, but if we don't change what we're doing, we will become obsolete.
So we have to get back to basics.
As simple as that, Rob, yes.
This new electronic age that we're in now, and people are saying, Rob, it's not that new. Well, when you look at the entire timeline of humanity, what we're doing in this new age, the electronic age, is very new. And how do we, do we adapt to the electronic age, or does the electronic age adapt to us, Gwilda?
Well, it's an amazing thing. Like God created us in his own image, right? Well, we've created the electronics in our own image. Mm-hmm. And I think that electronics are just an example of the capacity that we have as human beings to connect with all that is. It's just that we're doing it right now through electronics. I believe that as we evolve, we won't need that modality because we'll step back into our ability to connect on all levels. In the meantime, it's a beautiful tool.
But it's a tool that we have seen that has serious consequences. For example, the amount of bullying that is going on because of the anonymity that is afforded people who want to bully people electronically, the negative aspects that the electronic communication can play in politics, Facebook, Twitter. Are we depending too much in electronics and losing our personal appeal and the touch of the art of communication?
Oh, absolutely we are at this time. And again, that's swinging all the way over to where electronics is the god and we lose ourselves in each other in the process. I see that again as part of this whole process that we're in. And it's also an escapism, a place to, like you say, express your anger that you haven't processed, or to stick your head in the sand in. But I see people walking down. You have to be careful when you're driving, because people will cross the street looking at their phones, and never even know that you're coming. So, I absolutely see what you're seeing, but it's not the electronics that's the problem. It's the numbing of society and our addiction to it that's becoming difficult.
The addiction to the electronics, is this just a phase we're going through, or is this what we have to look forward to in the years and the decades to come?
Boy, that's a tough one to answer. I really don't see it lasting long, but I see it having a very short-term, extremely detrimental effect on some.
You know, I have to laugh when I get emails or messages from some of my children. It's all this abbreviation, and kids don't want to use the phone anymore. They'd rather use Facebook. They'd rather use Messenger or Skype. Or what's happening to the human race? It seems that we're losing touch with other people because of this electronic age we're in.
Well, I think that the electronic age is actually reflecting where we were already going. The American family I know got real busy building the American way of life, which involved both parents working full time, and the TV became the babysitter. And now it's just evolved into the tablets and the computers and the Facebook and Skype and this and that. And children didn't get to sit down and play games with their folks. They didn't get to sit down and listen to fireside stories from their grandparents. They were brought up to desensitize themselves to each other, and the only way they have of relating is through electronics. And that, I think, is the worst thing that's happened that we need to turn around.
You know, you were talking about the Lakota Indians before, the members of the First Nations. They still talk to each other. They still tell stories. What can we learn from them?
The stories of our lives and the stories of our ancestors' lives are the most valuable things we have. That's why they held so strongly to the oral traditions, because stories are living things. And each time they're told with a little different intonation, even though they're very precisely memorized from generation to generation. And so the stories themselves can encompass so much meaning, and they're responding to the frequency that's available at the time, and therefore imbuing the unconscious and the subconscious with truth in any given time. Stories are encoding of evolution. They evolve with us, and their meaning evolves, and they're one of the most powerful and valuable things we have, and yet we've walked away from them.
So how do we get back to basics? You know, we have to admit that the electronic age is here to stay. However, there has to be a happy medium where we can still learn how to communicate with one another without using any of these messenger services, that we can actually pick up something called a telephone and say, hello, how are you? Or here's even a better idea, meet face to face. How do we get back to that?
It's going to be a work in process, and I think that there's going to be people that just really have to want to do that enough to educate themselves in what has been lost. Because we have a whole generation here that has been brought up by electronics, not with it, but by it. And so that's their intimacy. And they're going to, have to set their intent to live in a different way, to go back to telling each other stories, to sit down and play a card game, to turn the phone off, set it aside, and look in your friend's eyes and say, what's going on with you? What are you feeling? What are you thinking? What do you think about this? People just don't know how to do it. But it can be relearned if we simply set our intent. And if each of us shares our stories with the other person in a very real, one-on-one kind of way, just if you take 10 minutes a day and say, what's going on with you? The other day I pulled off the side of the road. There was a guy sitting there, and he had a sign. And he said, anything helps. So I pulled over and I gave him something. And I said, so why are you here? And he blinked at me. He says, I don't think anybody's ever asked me that. I don't think anybody's ever asked me that. And I said, well, it's a good question. And he says, I'll have to think about that. Thank you, ma'am. It's like the man had never been spoken to.
My biggest question to those who I come across during my daily travels is, what would happen if in 30 seconds from now the internet went dead? There was a massive EMP, and bang, no more internet, no more cell towers, no more electronic communications. What would you do? And they all stumble for an answer.
Yes. I mean, and what's scary, Rob, is that has become such an Achilles tendon for us that it's now a weapon.
That's scary.
Yeah.
That is really scary. Gwilda, you and I have to take our commercial break at the bottom of the hour. Please stand by, my dear friend. Great having you with me. From everyone here, Gwilda, to you and yours, a very happy New Year, friend.
Thank you so much.
Exonation, I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break as we continue here in the X-Zone with our good friend, this first show of the year 2016, Gwilda Wiyaka. Once again, her website is GWILDAWIYAKA.com. This is the X-Zone. I am Rob McConnell. We're coming to you live and around the world from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. And I'll be back on the other side. Don't go away.
The scientist and the mystic have been on an age-old, relentless search with one thing in common. They seek truth. Their paths converge in the 40,000-year-old practice of shamanism, an ancient science delving to the quantum level of life, facilitating healing, manifestation, and evolution. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, the founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Arts School, a unique Colorado State certified occupational school training shamanic practitioners and teachers. We also provide classes for empowering personal lives through shamanism. Our certification classes are in week-long segments enabling international participation, and online classes and long-distance shamanic healing sessions are available. Come discover the science of magic in the limitless world of shamanism. www.findyourpathhome.com.
Jeff Gilson didn't go out looking for adventure, danger, or the answers to most of the controversial political intrigues of the past 30 years. But he found all three when he began investigating the mysterious death of his close friend, Margaret Thatcher's favorite speechwriter. Just an ordinary guy living in a small, sleepy suburb 20 miles outside of London, Jeff's questions provoked a powerful response on both sides of the Atlantic. He was shot at, warned off by the CIA, and formed a close bond with one of Israel's most notorious intelligence officers. Relive Jeff's gripping adventure in his fast-paced book, Maggie's Hammer. Peel away the layers of establishment deception and discover, as Jeff did, that his friend was an assassin with British intelligence, that Great Britain has been America's secret hitman for the past 30 years, and that Princess Diana was not the target in that Parisian tunnel. All of this and more when you visit www.maggieshammer.com and find the link to buying this explosive book online. More and more ordinary people feel they no longer have control of their lives. Jeff fought back. He asked the difficult questions. He set out to redesign his own destiny, and you can do the same using Maggie's Hammer as your guide. Don't waste a moment. Buy it today. Visit www.maggieshammer.com.
What if Jesus came back now and insisted that we listen to him? How would the world be different if Christians really followed the Gospels? For 2,000 years, we've been practicing a religion. Now it's finally time to get it right. Read Liberating Jesus, new from Roberta Grimes. Meet the Jesus you never knew. Roberta uses afterlife evidence and biblical analysis to prove that Jesus is exactly right. Learning the lessons that he came to teach is the reason we are born at all. Roberta says he has come back now to insist that we actually listen to him so we can begin to use his teachings to unite and transform the world. Liberating Jesus wherever books are sold. Jesus has the answers, and it's not too late. Roberta blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com.
Starr began to demonstrate a metaphysical connection to the spirit world as a little girl. Her family noticed the connection, but it was a great-grandmother who told the family that Linnea was indeed gifted. The great-grandmother, who was also gifted, felt that Linnea had indeed inherited these attributes. It has been noticed that oftentimes such things are passed down through the generations.
Linnea was also born with a caul, a thin white membrane across a newborn's face. Legend has it that if the baby is born with this caul, the child will have second sight, or what we call psychic abilities. Linnea's star does past, present, and future, and has the gift of prophecy. It is written within scriptures that if you were able to give factual information and prophecies indeed come true, the gift indeed comes from the divine realm. Linnea Star does large interactive groups as well as private gatherings. For more information on Linnea Star or to contact Linnea for a one-on-one consultation, visit her website at www.linneastar.com. That's www.linneastar.com.
You're listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. Radio's authority on the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology, celebrating 25 years of broadcasting. Broadcasting around the world and to the great beyond.
Welcome back, everyone. This is the X-Zone. I am Rob McConnell. We're coming to you live and around the world from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Worldwide toll-free, 1-800-610-7035. My email address is xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV. And our radio site where you can listen to this, the X-Zone, 724-365 at www.xzoneradiotv.com. Gwilda Wiyaka is our very special guest, the first guest of a new year. This is January the 4th, and we're looking into, well, the shamanic crystal ball, so to speak. And Gwilda, always great having you on the show. We've talked about how people can prepare for what is in the days and the months and the weeks ahead. But when it comes down to basics, what is your advice for listeners? How can they best prepare?
By learning to know themselves, by really doing some soul searching and saying, what is really important? Like what's important to me and why? I have this exercise that I teach my students. I call it the why exercise. And it's about setting intent, because we have these unconscious intents that we put out in the world. And right now, with everything moving so quickly, what we think or intend and what manifests happens pretty quickly. So we have to be more mindful of what we are intending and, bring it forth in our thoughts and know that what we're intending really works. So the why exercise works like this. So what do you want? What do you want to create? Well, I want to win the lottery. Well, why? Well, so I have lots of money. Well, why? So I can buy lots of nice things. Well, why? So I'll look successful. Well, why? So people will think well of me. Why? So they'll love me. So really, the lottery had nothing to do with what we really intended. But we've gone there, we've created these solutions that don't really get us to where we want to go. And we are manifesting just kind of haphazardly, being victim of the ability to win the lottery or not. So knowing yourself and coming to know where you are in space and time and what you really intend is one of the first steps towards creating it in your world. Because the world's going to do what it's going to do, but where are you going to be in that is up to you.
Wouldn't a good idea be go out and buy a ticket first?
You could do that.
Yeah. Because without the ticket, you're not going to win, let's face it.
Let's face it, but most people don't even take that step.
Oh, does common sense go out the window when greed supersedes every other emotion?
Yes, I think greed, though, is fear-based. And, of course, fear, everything goes out the window.
Mm-hmm. For those who are new listeners here to the X-Zone on our new networks that we picked up over the holidays, what is a shaman?
Okay, well, there's lots of different definitions, and shamanism has been around between 40 and 50,000 years old, probably since the last time of Leo, the age of Leo. And shamanic practices are found at the base of virtually every culture. So it's not just a Native American medicine man kind of thing we're talking about here. And I have my own definition of what shamanism is, and that's an organized set of rituals that enables the practitioner to manage matter at the quantum level. And so basically what we're able to do through the rituals of shamanism is to read what's going on at the quantum level, and that's where the push-pull is in life. And therefore, one, we can decide what's about to happen and where our place is within that, where we want to be. Or two, we can pick up any imbalances in ourself at the quantum level that's setting us up for a manifestation of a future that we personally don't want, and shift that intent. So we aren't the victims of what becomes matter if we are able to interact before it becomes matter, and that's been the realm of the shaman for 50,000 years.
You know, people think of shamans and they think of witch doctors. And is that a fair comparison?
Well, again, that's what they look like from the outside. They call them witch doctors, a lot of people. And the rituals themselves can be very misunderstood. We've almost eradicated shamanism off the planet. And so the forms that do exist, for the most part, are ones that serviced ancient people. And so they have, the ancient ways about them. They do incantations, they dance up and down, they do sleight of hand, a lot of really showmanship things, because the older indigenous people needed a physical representation of what was going on in spirit to align their intent with what was going on. And I'm a preceptor for the University of Colorado School of Medicine, and believe me, they don't need me dancing around. They need me explaining to them how this works at the quantum level and what we can expect to see and what kind of changes we can create for our clients. And it does work. It absolutely works. It's just that the rituals have been misunderstood because they're viewed from the outside by anthropologists who see them as sleight of hand and woo-woo and all of that stuff. But really, they are organized rituals. They vary from culture to culture, but they're designed to put the shamanic practitioner into an altered state of consciousness whereby they can access the quantum level.
All right. If shamanism is, as you described it, real, why would anthropologists look at it as a woo-woo factor?
Well, for one thing, they're looking at it from the outside, and there's a lot of showmanship involved, like I said, in shamanism. Yeah. They would throw something in the fire that actually made it spark up. But, and so, of course, they say, well, see, it's just sleight of hand, and these more primitive people are buying into it. But that was just part of the practice, and anthropologists there was one anthropologist that didn't take it that way. It was Michael Harner, and he went around and subjected himself to, we only know what, by studying various shamanic practices from various cultures. He kept only what they all had in common and created what he called the core practice. And this was a monumental thing because this practice has filtered out all the cultural and religious idiosyncrasies and has brought it into a form that it can really be used by people of today with consistent results, whether the people know exactly what they're doing or not as far as, what's going on at the quantum level, blah, 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 blah. But rather, here it is. You put A into B and out comes C, and you can do it every time. The shamanic journey trance is a measurable, altered state of consciousness. Your brain waves change, and they change the same way every time, and you can reproduce it every time. So we're starting to get more scientific than the original anthropologists were able to be, just observing from the outside in indigenous tribes.
When you're using the word quantum physics or quantum level with shamanism, you're like using the past and adding the future, and this must be very confusing to people.
Well, it is and it isn't, as my Celtic teacher would have said. Quantum physics is just the study of nature at the subatomic realm, and shamanism is nature-based. So they're really, a marriage made in heaven.
So to speak. All right,
I thought you might catch that.
Yeah, give our listeners some examples of how the past and the future meld in shamanism.
Well, shamanism, the shamanic trance, because it is working at the quantum level, is not restricted by time and space.
Gotcha.
We use mechanical waves, as in drumming or this or that, to put ourselves in an altered state of consciousness. But the mechanical waves actually affect the endocrine glands. The endocrine glands affect the chakric systems, and that shifts it to electromagnetic waves. Mechanical waves have to have a medium to propagate in. Electromagnetic waves can move through the vacuum of space. And it's on the electromagnetic waves and where toroidal fields, or what shall I want to say here, the energetic fields of planets and people and everything else interface, that the shaman's consciousness can travel through. So we can travel into other people's space to see where they're imbalanced. We can travel it can go across the universe if need be. And I really believe that's where a lot of our ancient knowledge that we didn't have the cultural base for came from, like the Mayan calendar, say, for instance.
So you're not limited by time and space?
No, If I'm doing a simple healing, soul retrieval healing, and you don't lose your soul, but basically what I'm doing is I'm tuning into where a person disconnected from some of their bandwidth of frequency through trauma, so PTSD, that sort of thing. And I have great results with people with PTSD because I'm able to go back and see where something didn't go well for them in their history. And they don't have to have told me anything about it, but I just go into the trance because my intention is this person has come to me with this presenting problem. Where did this start and how can we correct it? Well, it's a frequency correction. That's all it is. They decided to let go of a particular bandwidth of frequency because it didn't go well for them. But then they never remembered doing it and they never reconnect. And that's my job. But I go back into their history and I can see in my journey trance, which is like an interactive dream, I can literally see sometimes exactly what happened to this person without having any knowledge of it whatsoever. And when I recite it to the person, they tell me that happened. You described my bedroom exactly like it was. You described my toys exactly like they were. You described the people involved exactly like they were. And after that happening to me time and time and time again, I realized, oh yeah, I'm literally journeying backwards in this person's field to when they disconnected, and that's in the history of the person, not in the present moment.
There must be some common thread between all the people that you have done your shamanic work on when you go into their past. What is that common thread? Is every case totally different from another?
Well, there's some interesting patterns that I've started to, I've done thousands and thousands and thousands. I've been at this a long, long time. And I'm not going to tell you how old I am so you don't get to know how long. But
we have that answer right here, and I'm going to let the world know that you're 33 years of age. You're 5'9".
Boy, you're making me taller and younger all the time. But have started to see for years now amazing currents in different things that bring people to me. And it's expanded my belief system and understanding of what's going on out there and what's possible. I've seen ritualistic abuse, and it carries the same pattern, and it carries the same rituals, and it's the same from person to person, even though these people have never met each other or anything else. I've seen abductions. I've seen electrical shock conditioning things that are perpetrated on people, and I've started to see different places where this is prevalent, different processes used, different brainwashing techniques. So in the larger scheme of things, what I deal with is people that haven't been able to find help any other way. Then in the smaller schemes of things, I have somebody that they had an accident. Things haven't been the same since. They come to me. We make a quick correction, and they're on their way. And they're nice, normal, everyday person, doesn't live a whole bunch of trauma. So I've seen all the gamuts. But what's starting to fascinate me, Rob, is this ugly underbelly that is exposing itself, that's been going on for generations, of systematic abuse that fragments out our populace. And now it's starting to show, and as we start to reclaim our natural birthright and our natural frequency, the days of that kind of fragmentation and that kind of exploitation are soon coming to an end. And that's what we're looking at here.
So is this all part of the progression in our spirituality, or is this a progression within our human race?
Both, I think. It just depends on how we want to relate to it as individuals. I like to think back to, the age of Pisces.
Right.
In the age of Pisces, Christ was born. In the age of Pisces, Hitler was born. So everything is always existing at the same time. It's what is the ambient frequency supporting most. So back in Pisces, things were pretty low frequency, and poor Christ didn't have a good, easy go of it because he was very high frequency. But he was able to be here. And so these are the examples that I give. It's not that we're victims of the frequency of the time, but that we can cooperate with the frequency of the time and be all that we can be no matter what time we come into. And these times coming up give us a lot of opportunity as human beings to evolve on all four levels: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual.
Where does the common person, and that's not a negative scenario explanation, where does a person who is not as in tuned as you, Gwilda, know where to turn? Because there's a lot of charlatans out there who are just out there to try and get what they can take from people who are seeking answers. How does the common person or the person who has all these questions protect themselves from the charlatans out there?
Well, I have to say that over the years you've really helped. They should go to your hall of woo-woos, right? No, it's where did this person study? What are they telling you? Does it resonate? Are they telling you what you want to hear? Are they playing on your fears? The sad thing about shamanism, and now when I'm talking shamanism, that covers a whole gamut. So medical intuitives are shaman, psychics are shaman, mediums are shaman. I mean, those are shamanic skills.
Right.
That doesn't mean they're shaman, but they're using a shamanic skill. But there's little to no training out there for them, so they're just coming by the seat of their pants. Some of them are better than others, and each according to their gifts, and each according to their limitations, and each according to their damage. And someone can go out there, take a weekend course, and hang their plaque and call themselves a shamanic practitioner. So looking really closely at where this person is studied and what other people are saying. I don't call myself a shaman. And it's always been believed that you don't call yourself a shaman. And I certainly don't, because I wasn't brought up in a long line of shaman by, one shamanic tradition. Mm-hmm. But my people call me that because of my track record and because of what they see me do. And that's where you look. What do other people have to say here? What's really going on? What's my gut telling me? And if all else, they can always go to the X-Zone Hall of Woo-Woos.
Yeah. Yeah, we've certainly had our fill of woo-woos on this show over the last 25 years. Everyone, going back to 2012, expected the end times because it was the end of the Mayan calendar. Why, in your opinion, Gwilda, are people fascinated with the end of the world scenarios?
Well, I think there's multiple levels to that, but the one that sticks with me is it'd be a lot easier if the thing had just ended and we didn't have to process and do our own work.
It's an easy way out.
It really is, that we don't have to be responsible for.
So how do we make ourselves responsible for the changing world that we're in and prepare for a better tomorrow?
Recognize that we're creating it.
Recognize we're creating it. Tell me how we do that.
Well, the buck stops here. When we think that life is something that just happens to us, we're victims and we stagger through, not realizing that everything we manifest, we're doing it unconsciously from our intention. And if we can bring our intention conscious and consciously choose how we want to interface with whatever's present, then we can manifest a different outcome than if we don't. And so recognizing that it's in the palm of our hands. Our future is in the palm of our hands. And how each of us as individuals respond creates the opportunity for us to move en masse.
That's quite prophetic. Wow. Now, you've got online courses that are going to be starting later on this year. Tell us about it.
Yes, I do. Actually, I have a couple up already, but I'm starting a new series of online classes that are actually designed to help people that don't want to go to school necessarily to be, go to the whole thing of becoming a shamanic practitioner, but want these tools at their hand during these times when they can use them. How do I get closer to my family? How do I set up sacred space in my home so there's a home environment that we all want to sit together in? How and when do I plant my crops if I want to have some? Those kind of common sense questions that can be answered through different ways and different practices of being in the world that support you with the laws of nature rather than having you work against them. And that's what the classes are going to focus on.
You were telling me off air that you you offer information that is stronger than feng shui.
Yes, feng shui is a ritual. And the ancient feng shui practitioners were shaman, okay? But what feng shui as we know it is here is if you put this standard color in this standard corner, it stands for this, and that's fine, that's ritual, and it certainly helps energy flow. But if you realize that these are just the tools, the real, what moves this energy, what creates this energy is you, and that you are counterbalancing imbalances in you by shifting it in your environment, whether it's through color or placement of mirrors or anything else, then there's the power behind the tool. So otherwise, it's just a chainsaw with no real gas. And it's the same way with any ritual, recognizing that it's our intent that drives this thing, and our alignment with ourselves and with life and with the planet is what empowers it.
But if it's the intent within each and every one of us, how does this apply to those we live with? Because I'm sure each and every person has their own intent. So how would this work for an entire family?
This is something I really, really specialize in. It's one of my favorite subjects, is that you can have a personal intent for your personal room, but you can get together as a family and consciously sit down. Oh, what a concept, huh, Rob? Sit down and talk.
Yeah.
Now, when have you seen that, right?
Oh, many years ago. Many years ago.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But sit down and say, okay, what do we want to create this year? What do we want to, how would we like, this is a family room. What would you like it to feel like? What would make you feel good? And everybody consciously sit down for a little bit together and then move from that place and create the space. And I've done this with my children, who are now grown and do it for themselves, for years. Is you start within your personal space, and then you move outward and differentiate. So you make sure you're absolutely supported in your personal space, and that would be your body. And then out into your clothing, out into your room. And then as you move out further into the world, you collaborate with those around you to build the highest frequency that everybody else is going to be comfortable in.
So this feng shui scenario about the mirror, the red paint, the fish tank, and a few of the other feng shui traditions that are out there. Do they have any validity?
They really do, Rob. But they've become canned. And life is not canned. Life keeps changing and moving. And so when you have the ability to go into journey trance and ask questions, okay, what would best support at this time, given our intention as a family, and then design around that, you could be using feng shui principles, or you could be using interior designer principles, or you could be using shamanic principles. It doesn't matter, because you're coming from the living spirit of the combined intention of the people that are going together on the project, whatever it is. I had an interesting thing. I used to do drum circles for a company that they were a think tank for all these huge people getting together to build hospitals. And they came in and they had me do a drum circle, and I set up the drum circle and I described what happened in each direction. Okay, east is the place of birth, south is the place of passion, co-creation, summer, west is the place of mid-age and, harvest, and north is the place of elders and wisdom and gratitude. And then center is the heart. They actually built the entire hospital. The cardiac center was in the center of the place. The pediatrics was in the south. Geriatrics was in the north. They built the whole hospital based on those concepts. And from what I've heard, it's been an amazing experience for all of them.
Truly fascinating. Gwilda, the time has come when you and I must say so long for tonight. I look forward to the next time you join us here in the X Zone. But let our listeners know how they can not only find out more about you, but how they can listen to your radio show, The Science of Magic.
Oh, The Science of Magic is located at www.thescienceofmagic.net, and you can find all the episodes that we have so far there. Also, they're going to be coming through the X Zone Nation in the not too distant future, I believe, so they'll be broadcast live as well. So you can always see them on the website or eventually listen to them live.
Gwilda, from everyone here at the X Zone and to you and yours, my dear friend, a very happy new year, and I look forward to talking to you as we share and investigate this wonderful world that we live in. Until then, take care of yourself, my friend.
Thank you. The same to you, Rob.
Exonation, Gwilda Wiyaka has been my guest this hour, www.gwildawiyaka.com. My name is Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone. I'll be back on the other side of the news at the top of the hour as we continue live and around the world from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.